Greetings, Twitter. Good evening. I'm going to try this for a third time. Second time, I got a little blurb on my screen saying that there was an input error, so I don't know what happened. I apologize for that, but I'm going to try to get through this without any more systemic issues. I wanted to get online tonight and talk a little bit about what's been going on over the last few weeks. As you know, Matt Gaetz made a motion to vacate the speakership about 3 weeks ago, I think it was, and successfully ousted Kevin McCarthy as the Speaker in the House of Representatives. And ever since, the House of Representatives has been at a basic standstill, basically locked up, frozen, and nothing has been able to get done in the Congress. As you know, if the president were to want anything done, he would need to submit it to Congress. Either the House or the Senate would have to create the bill, pass it, and then send it to the opposite chamber for them to approve it, and then from there to be passed to the president to be signed into law or whatever the case may be. Well, with the House of Representatives at a standstill, that legislative process is basically shut down. And, it's until a new speaker is elected, there can be no business in our U.S. Congress. And then on top of that, we have the issue of the attack by Hamas against Israel, the situation going on over there in Gaza, on top of an existing and ongoing scenario in Ukraine with Russia. And looking at all what's been going on, it's obvious that we have a huge crisis here in the States with our government. Our government, as you know, it's a two-party system, and there's always been some sort of disagreement or division between the two parties. And it's sad to say that this division has evolved, and it's evolved in a manner that is, instead of for the better, has been for the worse, because it has evolved to the point where now the division is no longer between the two parties, but it's within a specific party. And the party that has demonstrated this intense division within itself has been the conservatives. Amazingly, the examples that we've seen with the Democrats, with the liberals, have been quite the opposite in certain circumstances. For instance, in the three last votes for House Speaker, the Democrats have been vastly unanimously united to elect one individual. I mean, you can't be more united than that. If you unanimously decide we want this individual, Hakeem Jeffries, as Speaker, that sets a major example, a major precedent of how united this party is. And then you see the fallout and the division occurring within the conservatives. I mean, it kind of tells you what's really going on if you think about it. And unfortunately, it does not appear that the conservatives are going to be able to unanimously elect a speaker with the division they have. There's no way. I mean, they would have to come united together to do this, and they have not been successful as of yet. The only honest way that this is going to work out is, and this is something that I know that a lot of conservatives are going to be like, no, you're crazy, that can't work because we don't agree with what the Democrats are doing, and some liberals are going to be like, well, we can't deal with the conservatives the way they're acting, they're against us here and this and on these issues, and that is that the only way that we're going to elect a speaker and get Congress back on track is that it has to be by both parties uniting together in one mindset and agreement toward a common goal. And that common goal is a leader that will work with both sides of the aisle. not necessarily with one party, but with both. That's the only way that we're going to break this scenario that we're going through right now, as far as the division that's going on, because unless there is unity, unless there is a united front, this division is going to keep evolving and evolving and evolving until there is no more Republican Party, till there is no more government. And that's the bottom line at this point. It can't get in. That's just, as worse as it's going to be able to get, unless there is some sort of unity between both sides of the aisle. I know it sounds crazy, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but if we think about it, the history shows shows us where we've come from, where we've progressed to, where we're evolving to, and we're at a stage where our government cannot function in unity. They cannot function at all. Right now, it's the House of Representatives. It's not difficult or impossible to imagine that the Senate itself will fall under that same scenario, given the exception that it's the Democrats that are in majority in the Senate that might keep the Senate functional within itself. But the Senate can also fall to this division, and if that happens, basically we as a country we're screwed. Unity is the only solution, in all honesty, to overcome this scenario. If anybody can suggest something else and it's a workable solution, then so be it. But I don't see it. I don't see that happening in any way, shape, or form. We need to confront this situation in a united manner and get our country back on track. And if that doesn't happen, the only other alternative option that we have is American citizens is to elect other individuals, unseat these elected officials that are there now, and elect officials that will do what's right for the country. In other words, elect officials. And before I go any further than that, let me say this. In order for our country, for our government to pull out of this, one important thing has to occur, and a lot of people that are politically inclined are going to say this is stupid, this is crazy. But in all honesty, if you think about it, it's probably the only way that our government is going to be able to get back on track, and that is that as politicians and as elected officials, they need to abandon a lot of their party's beliefs. Now you say, well, that's what their party's based on. Yeah, but it's these beliefs that have over time have allowed this division to within the party to evolve to where it's at. Because these beliefs have gotten so to the extreme, as it were, that it has pushed, number one, it has pushed the Democrats and the Republicans further apart, but at the same time it is pushing certain conservatives away from other conservatives. The only way is to abandon these beliefs and work together toward a common goal. That's the bottom line, the gist. If these beliefs, this political system of beliefs, is what's crippling our country, then why be so insistent upon following them, insistent upon relying upon them, if that's what's causing all this collateral damage in our government? They need to be set aside. they need to be set aside so that as elected individuals, these elected individuals can do what is right for the country to get everything back on track. I mean, if we look at history, ever since this division began to evolve, back 40 years ago, it has prevented Congress from modernizing or certain systems within the government that needed to be modernized. It has gotten to the point over time that now we can't even pass a budget at the end of every year because there's just too much tension and too much division. And that's because the system of beliefs has been so contaminated that it has clouded the judgment, it has clouded the mentality of these elected individuals in not being able to make the most adequate choices for the benefit of the country. That's the bottom line. I'm not talking about in any political fashion. I mean, politics, far from it. I have myself chosen to be neutral in every aspect as much as I can, because it's just I don't want to get caught up in that same spirit of division, because it's not. I mean, that's what it is. It's a spirit, and it's clouded over our government to the point where our government cannot function. I mean, it's all a matter of common sense and of logic. Okay? If you go back and you analyze our government over time, you'll see the division between the parties, and then you'll see where it evolves and it begins to divide one of the parties more than the other. And when I say divide one of the parties within itself, we need to overcome this. We need to nip it in the bud, I guess. But to do it, there has to be a degree of unity. And I think the degree of unity that has to happen today is a unity between the two sides of the aisle to work together to a common goal. If that doesn't occur, I mean, I don't see any other way that our country is going to pull out of this. There has to be unity. Because where there is no unity, there is division. That is a fact. And that's something that we need as Americans to address, because we're going to need to elect officials that will set aside these political beliefs and focus on healing and recovering the country from this crisis that we're in. That's what it boils down to. And all we can do is hope, wait, pray. I mean, we could push our elected officials into doing what needs to be done, but I would hate for that to allow for a more involved flow of division, because then the division would not only affect our elected officials but us as citizens. And I think we need to be careful not to allow that to occur. We need to allow that. We need to be careful to avoid that area, but we need to do something to motivate our elected officials towards unity. That's all it is. Thank you for your time, and I hope that this conversation makes you guys think as much as it makes me think about the future of our country, because I think that's what we need to do. We need to, and I've said this many times on other occasions in the past, well, and it bears repeating again. We need to step back ourselves as Americans. We need to examine the situation with an open mindset, with a neutral mentality. Because if we don't do that, and we continue to see everything with a political mindset, we're never going to see what's really going on behind the scenes. We're really not going to see what's really happening to our country. We're not going to be able to, see the division for what it is. It's a division, it's a spirit, it's a sickness, and it's contaminated our country, our government. That's what it is. And I hope that this makes all of us, and it made me think, and I hope that it makes all of you think as well. To what, it opens you up to the reality of what's actually going on in our government, in our nation. And what we need to do as Americans to right this ship, to address the issues, to correct this, to get our country, get our government back on track. Thank you for your time.